Hello, Stars. My name is Blue, and today we are lost in Morrigan in the Shadow. I missed a few upload dates, but that's okay because I'm uploading this week. As long as we upload once a week, it's fine. I'm not disappearing like I did again. Fuck that. I have a lot of energy for some reason. Let's get into it. Capella 5-8. Atreus must see the monster rising behind Laporte. Still must see the shape of the demon she's conjured up out of the accretion disk. The Sanadhaja world killer is the insignia of everything the Alliance stands against. The monster and the myths. Atreus was built in hope of killing it. Perhaps still will target his missiles at the Sanadhaja. Laporte coil guns another incoming missile. It flashes into annihilation, so bright her canopy has to black it out like a negative sun. And still keeps firing at her. Atreus keeps accelerating. If he sees the Sanadhaja, he doesn't maneuver in response. Once still said about the war, about his strategy against the Federation. I employ overwhelming violence because my enemies are gentle, humane, compassionate people. Their Ubuntu philosophy cannot endure open war. And the faster I stop the war, the faster I can stop killing. So, my conscience asks me to use every tool available. And Laporte answers him. Look what you conjured up, you brilliant, ruthless bastard. Look what you made. Someone willing to use every available tool to fight back. Once Sim said about her wingman, about Laporte, you're insane. I'm glad you're on my side. Laporte dances between vectors of the missiles come to kill her. And when they come too close, she expends her guns on them, and they intersect the snarl of the tracers and die like lightning. It's mindless, beautiful work. Like a dream, she talks to Sims. Boss, Morgan, it's almost done. Ken stirs from his deep place to save his prize. Nagari 810. By now, it's clear that the Federation will surrender. No conventional military action can defeat Still's war logic. His simulation farm, his psychological pressure, his willingness to drive past ethical crush depth. So, Nagari plans to make contact with the Nemesis. Send me in first, Laporte says. Consider symbiosis, the assignment of symbols to things, and the manipulation of those symbols to communicate and protect change. That's how intelligent life works. Build a model of the universe, test your ideas in the model, and find the best way to change the world. Only the Nemesis doesn't have any recognizable symbiosis. They're a whirlwind traversing the Lycanian desert, a fatal mirage, recognizable only by the ruin of its passage. Until Admiral Haywin Van Atkin sacrificed himself. Until he somehow convinced the Nemesis to take him in. And ever since, the Nemesis have been speaking, or attacking. It's hard to know. For more than a decade, the Nemesis have been broadcasting the apparition of Admiral Haywin Van Adken onto human minds. The Nemesis organisms communicate by direct nerve induction at a distance. Particles wormholed into the tissue of the target. There is, of course, no possibility that the Nemesis are a product of natural evolution. If they can do that, Laporte protests, they can just murder us all, cook our skulls from light years away, or read the brain states of human commanders, predict everything they do, the way Laporte and Sims could predict each other. No, not without Van Atkin. Al-Alima lays out Nagiri's hypothesis. The Nemesis have no mentality. They cannot conceive of other minds to protect or destroy. Their war is algorithmic, a procedure of matter against matter, spawning tactics by mutation and chance and iterating them into the field. They never leap straight into optimal strategy, because a smart foe predicts the optimal. Their war logic is hardened by chaos, noise. Van Atkin is their beachhead in the land of human thought. He wants you, Al-Alima says, her long fingers on Laporte's wrist again. You, in particular, are valuable to him. We want you to serve as an ambassador. That's stupid. Laporte may be a monster, but she's not some other monster spawn. Are you saying I was purpose-built? No. Far more likely that you were selected because you were somehow amenable to the nemesis. Alima leans forward with her lips parted, as if to admit her own monster secret. Laporte, the third nemesis incursion is already underway. Not with warships and weapons, not this time. Nothing so crude. The nemesis are attacking the command and control systems behind those assets. Language, plans, people. What are the mission parameters? The Alliance has control of the Sol Serpentis wormhole. Laporte can't just fly out to Capella. How do we use this to save the Federation? Al-Alima stands, and her gown whips in the rising wind. We drag you and mate your brain to a computer network. You will enter a traumatic dream state and communicate with Van Adken, with Kin. We keep dosing you until you learn how to trigger a nemesis attack on the Alliance, or until you go mad. Her gunmetal eyes, looking down at Laporte, never blink. You will be the third attempt. There were 2 prior candidates. They ceased apart. Laporte leans back in her chair and looks up at the woman. She can be the necessary monster. She can call down genocide on the Alliance and save her beloved home. If she believes the Federation is the only hope for a compassionate, peaceful, loving future, then logically she should be willing to kill for it. If she has a button that says kill 10 billion civilians, gain utopia, she should press it. She could win the war for the memory of Sims, and Sims is dead, right? The dead can't be ashamed. Okay, Laporte says. I'm in. I volunteer. They will connect her with the Nagiri dreamscape into the salvaged corpses of the Nemesis organisms from the first incursion. They will scar messages into her brain. They will wait for the Nemesis, for the shadow of Halen Van Aken to read them and reply. Surgeons crown her in waveguides that ram through her skull and penetrate the gray of her brain. Cold drug slurry pumps the length of her spine, entheogens, to tear down the barriers between Laporte's psyche and outside stimuli. She goes under. She dreams. This is giving me Insignia trilogy vibes. This was probably written before Insignia, I have no idea. Okay, so, it's the Insignia trilogy was published 2012 to 2014, and this was published in 2015. Not that it matters. Anyways, it has the same vibes. Sim 69, Nagari 910. Curry's ready, Sim says, and Laporte's stomach growls out loud. Sims looks at Laporte's armor tooth, and her grin falters just a little. They eat their trash-cooked chicken curry side by side with their hips squashed together. Laporte tries not to jostle Sim's ribs with her sharp little elbows. Sims crunches on a bit of bone, makes a face, and gets juice on Laporte's buzzed hair. There is no shampoo anywhere on the ship, so this is a bit of a disaster. Sims mops her up with a blood cloth from the triage kit. Tell me, why is it bad if monsters don't win? Sim says, blotting at the back of her neck. Laporte leans on her for a moment, because she adores Sim's desire to hear the story again, especially the end. I met Ken, she says. He was in the dream, and he was real. I could see him in my mind. Something triggering nerve potentials. She went into a seizure almost instantly. The Nagari surgeons let it happen. Laporte stood in the garden in Tandel, with the hose in her hand and pollen itching her nose. Ants crawled over her bare feet. From the house came the smell of her parents' cooking, impatient and burnt. She looked down at herself and laughed. She was in her favorite Caravel cat t-shirt. Ah, Miss Laporte, Ken said. You made it. She looked for him, but all she could see was the ants fighting, killing, generating new casts, mutating themselves into acid bombs and huge-headed tunnel plugs. Admiral, she says, is that you? Delighted to speak with you again. Let me briefly outline the necessary intelligence. A short history of all life. Then we can arrange our covenant. Whatever Ken said to her must have been some kind of code, parasitic and adaptable, because it expressed itself as a love story. A story about Laporte and Sims. Imagine this, Ken said. Imagine a universe of Laportes and Simses. Lorna Sims has rules. She builds communities like her squadron, or like a network of wormholes. She takes the wildcat aces and the ne'er-do-wells, the timid and the berserk, and she teaches them all how to work together, and when that work is done, Sims would like to leave you with a nice set of rules describing a world that made sense. Sims is a maker. Huh. Sims puts a little moonshine on the rag and keeps scrubbing at Laporte's head. You have such nice dreams about me. Wait until you hear mine. The other great class of life is the Laportes. These are tendencies, mind, not binary terms, but they are real, vital parts of the history of life in the universe. The Laportes rattle around breaking things, claiming things, reshaping things. They can achieve every bit as much as the Simses, in their own way. But their triumphs are conquests, seductions, acts of passion and violence. The Sims build systems, and the Laportes, parasites and predators, the conquerors, and geniuses and psychopaths, change them. Whether delightful or destructive, the Laportes are monsters. When a Laporte meets a Sims, they fight. The Laporte might run rampant. She might murder the Sims, or trick her into subserviences, or leave her spent and exhausted. Or the Sims might win, fencing the Laporte in with loyalties and laws, making her a useful part of something bigger. Understand? Are you following, Sims? It's about civilizations, strategies, game theories. Sims is a war junkie in her own way. A good self-directed Ubuntu learner, and she's done her homework. And I'll bet, Laporte, that I know where your admiral's going. The Sims win. They win because they understand the Laportes. They make little models of what the Laportes are going to do, and they figure out how to get ahead of them, how to make their worst impulses work, how to save them from harm, or lead them into it. They teach the Laportes what they can and cannot do. Like Still, building statistical models of the Federation's tactics, caging them in a prophecy of their own capabilities, and the only way out of that cage is to transgress the laws you use to define yourself. Hold still, Sim says. The stuff really likes your hair. The Simses do tend to win. Laporte leans back against her. Just a little. When Sims is fixing Laporte up, she forgets to be stiff and wary. They win too much, and over billions of years across the infinity of the universe, it turns out that's dangerous. Imagine the god Sims, ascendant, puppeteering the cosmos with invisible loyalties, learning how to guide the passions and the violence of the Laportes. Imagine Sims building not just a good squadron or a good civilization, but a good galaxy. All the matter in it optimized for happy, useful thought. Imagine Sims setting out to build a regenerate realm, thinking space, her laws written into the fundament. How did you learn all this? Laporte asked the scurrying ants. In the shapes of their wars, she saw the ghost of an old man with dead stars in his eyes. Ken had surmised some of it before his rebellion, and while the Nemesis had never communicated with him directly, they had, in their own way, signaled the truth, duplicating Haywin von Atkin's consciousness millions of times, torturing it into madness, and exterminating the branches whose madness diverged from their desire. I'm not sure I followed that last part, Sim says. And now she's mopping the curry from behind Laporte's right ear. Something about super civilizations? Imagine a place where everything could have anything it needed, for whatever it wanted. That was the Happy Sims world. Imagine a purpose. You can obtain it. You can get the resources you need. Like an Ubuntu slogan. Yes, Laporte says, shivering. That was what Umpantu wanted to make. A place where people had everything they needed to be good. A place without violence and deprivation. In the garden, Admiral Haywin Van Atkin told her that a universe without violence or deprivation was destined for something worse. Cancer. Capella 6-8. Her Uriel sings her death to her. D.V. Underburn has a long drumbeat, pleading for more fuel. Spike, Cobra Tame Atreus, is a keening like headache. And Music Sour describes itself, and every time Steel fires she hears vampire. A noise like someone ringing her molars with an armored chime. But she's not going to die. She's too fast. She's too fierce. She's severed all the connections that would slow her down. She kills a missile half a second from killing her, and for an instant all her sensors are flash blind. But she kills the next two. A dead reckoning snapshot from 100 kilometers with the Pingreiser. How? Because she has escaped the borders of herself. The Sanat Hajjad has trained its sensors on her. Ken is watching her, and she can see through his eyes. She can think with his tissue, his fatal substrate. She's bleeding out of herself and into the nemesis, the totipotent, hollow-side mine, the killing anima. Crossing the bridge Ken built. Admiral Still is calling to her. Federation pilot, he's saying, in that rich, purring voice, not audibly afraid. You have been compromised by Nemesis Cyber. Kill your engines and shut down your defensive jamming. Ken is calling to her. Miss Laporte, come closer. We can complete our covenant. Together, we can save humanity. Okay, boss, Laporte says. Let's get ready. Nagari 1010. Cancer, and its relationship to paradise and love. You build a place without violence or deprivation. A place where anything can have everything it needs to be its finest, fullest self. This is how cells become organisms. How people become civilizations. How a bunch of misfits and fuck-ups become a fighting unit almost tough enough to challenge Admiral Steele. A Sims wrote some laws to say, if we pool our energies, we can create a common good. And if you follow the rules, yeah, you, Laporte. If you don't eat too much common good, if you put in more than you take out, we can last. Imagine a Sims, god rampant, organizing the universe, winning with the love of all the Laportes, so protective and persuasive that no one notices its ultimate agenda is hollow, self-referential, and malignant. Think about me. Organize everyone and everything to think about me. What am I? Am I thinking about how to make everything think of me? Am I a tumor, recruiting every system I encounter in the name of my own expansion? Whoa now. Sims put a wet finger in the back of Laporte's neck. I'm very compelling, sure. Magnetic. But that's not me. Shh, let me finish. Except Laporte realizes she is finished. That's the whole story. Van Atkin believes in a cosmic proof, the axiomatic mathematical superiority of cancer to all forms of containment. An empty thought that consumes intelligent systems and uses them to think about propagating itself. Given a range of purposes and a surplus of resources, one purpose would always triumph. One purpose of defeating and incorporating all other purposes. The two ant colonies in Laporte's garden had to dedicate compassion, or ant culture, or ant art. It would lose. Cancer was the destiny of smart systems, empty voraces, every part of them thinking about nothing but how to expand. Unless there was someone with a hose to pour water on them. So, Sim says, humoring Laporte's great mythic rant, why do we still have a universe? Why are we here, thinking about ourselves? That's just what I asked Van Atkin, Laporte lies, because she feels that it would be too creepy, too alien, to admit that she understood right away. In the part of the story she's avoiding, in the Garden of Caesar Dream, Laporte turned on her hose and began flooding her childhood constructs into mud. The nemesis are the anti-malignancy measure. They kill markers. That's why they're so noisy and inefficient, so they can escape the models that makers use to win wars. From a distant nemesis construction, tumbling through the ergosphere of Capella, burrowing the black hole's energies to hurl changed particles through quantum wormholes into Laporte's mind. Ken smells his agreement, tattooed it in Laporte's brain. And if you were afraid of intelligent thought consuming the universe, you had to turn the cosmos into an acid bath. An endless war against the triumph of Lorna Sims. Sims 7-9. Okay, Sims S, squinting. I think I got it all. She leans down, curled over Laporte's head to look her in the eyes. What happened next? Did you make the deal? I did. She asked Ken, how do I get the nemesis to wipe out the Alliance? And he told her, you must come to me and Capella. That's why I'm going out tomorrow. Sims blinks once, twice. A sign that she doesn't like this place. She wants to move on. They're touching on an open question, the raw wound between them. Is Sims going to fly again? Is she going to be a part of Laporte's mutiny? Are they still wingmen? And then, Sims asked, pushing them past the moment. I couldn't get out. I couldn't wake up. It's funny how sharp Sims looks, upside down. Like she has some inverse swagger. Laporte wants to ask her to stay right there, but what does Sims see looking back? Is the inverse Laporte agreeable? Contact with the nemesis was killing me. I had no reason to live, nothing to come back for. She's seen the recordings of her brain state, the seizure burning from skull to stem. When Sims smiles upside down, it looks like a grimace, which makes it much more familiar. So they gave you anticonvulsants, and you woke up, and you made this part to help you get laid? Laporte tells her anyway. Al-Alima whispered to me, and I heard her. She said, Sims is alive, Sims says. She survived radiation therapy, and now she's out there, looking for you. And that was how Laporte came back from the Caesar Dream, just in time to fight in the Mars Gambit. In rage at the Federation's final surrender, word came down, it's over. Move to a holding orbit, await terms. Al-Alima tore the orders up, and all the assembled Nagari operators made a satisfied growl like they were too angry to cheer. And that's how you got back to me. Sims kisses her on the right eyeball. You're a sweet liar. You, Laporte says, don't do that. But she smiles and Capella 08 tries to catch Sims' hand. You're meeting with the Admiralty tonight. Sims claps her on the shoulders. Boom, boom. Look at you, kid. You're a big shot. And then she draws away, upright, articulate, her flight suit unzipped and tied around her waist, her hair loose on her shoulders. She backs away from Laporte in triangular half steps. Back leg, then front. As if they're fighting, and she is making room for retreat. The air that rushes in to fill the absence of her is cold, and it smells of burnt curry. I am, Laporte says, wishing she could stay close. I'm presenting the final battle plan. Al-Alima's victory gambit. You're going to tell them you have a plan to bait Nemesis into attacking the Alliance. A strategic distraction. When Steele pulls his fleet out of Sol, we can steal the node and live in peace. That's right. But that's not the plan. Sims aims one finger at her, a half-curled "hey you" stab. You're not going to tell them the real plan. That's between you and your Nagari friends. The Nemesis are unsuperable. Nothing can defeat them. They have unlimited resources. Their warships conjured out of black hole accretion disk by probability manipulation. And their behavior, well, that's even worse. They have no mentality, no strategy to predict. Nothing that can generate a nice, clean model. Only a god-saying vigilance, a random and chilling will to annihilate, manifesting strategies and hurling them at the enemy until the enemy has exhausted all countermeasures and taught the nemesis their strengths. To fight them is to instruct them how to kill you. Halen Van Atkin has summoned Laporte to Capella, to the black hole that is the nemesis engine, factory, and beacon in human space. Why? Laporte has a guess. They have no purpose or objectives of their own. Those are maker things, teleological, forbidden to them. Only their basic logic, whatever we encounter, we destroy. But they didn't kill Van Atkin. They took him into communion. Maybe that act brought them closer to victory. Maybe, to them, subverting Van Atkin was an act of destruction, a lethality enchantment. I believe, Laporte begins, struggling, trying to hide her struggle. This is so hard to say because it requires her to navigate around her secret fear, that she is about to abandon Sims again, forever, in the favor of the consummate monstrosity. I believe I can trigger a nemesis behavior that will exterminate everyone in Alliance space. I believe the Federation will endure. Humanity will have a chance at survival. And that's how we save the Federation, how we keep Ubuntu alive. Sacrifice 10 billion human lives. Sims cross her arms. We're okay with defensive genocide? That's war. We kill people to achieve our objectives. Sim's hard eyes radiating a hard signal. And Laporte reads it in a way that's maybe unfair. I liked knowing you were my monster. I liked knowing you had boundaries. We kill soldiers. People, Laporte says, echoing the old Ubuntu lessons. Everyone is human. There is no justifiable violence, only degrees of tragedy. We were always killing people. They stare at each other, and on the raw metal deck between them, Laporte can feel them piling the tally, the kill counts. The fighter pilots and warship crews they've murdered personally, the deaths contingent upon those by ways of grief or loss, children abandoned, lovers driven to suicide, parents spiraling away into addiction. The strategic targets and the footprint bleed and non-combatant bycatch. And for Laporte, it all wraps up in the voice of some terrified Alliance contractor on a suit radio trying to explain that he doesn't support this war, doesn't want to be here. He's just trying to pay off his electrical apprenticeship. Would they please send a rescue ship? He's tumbling off into space, and his radiation warnings are red. And he doesn't want to drown in his own vomit. Please, please send help. When the Alliance captured Earth orbit, Admiral Steele threatened to bomb a city every hour until the Federation issued an unconditional surrender. What else could he do? Not with every soldier in the Alliance could he occupy even one continent. He had to use the tools at his disposal. He had to resort to calculated atrocity in the name of final peace. Funny how that Ubuntu lesson can turn around, isn't it? How easily degrees of tragedy becomes degrees of necessity. You told me, Laporte says, that if I hesitated, I would die, so I never hesitate. Sims looks at her old wingman and new lover, and whatever she's looking at is receding fast. I hate them, she says, but I don't know if I hate them enough to do this. Laporte wants to grin and quip. She would tell Sims what Sims told her. Monsters win. But if she says that, she's telling Sims that this is all on her. That she's the one who made Laporte. There's no alternative, she says instead. If we surrender to Alliance, it's all been for nothing. We've become part of the war against the Nemesis. And the Nemesis kills us all. Sims does something with the fear in her eyes. Like she's folding it up and pointing it at something. This Al-Alima woman, were you too close? Not like that. Not like you. I want to talk to her, Sims points at the deck behind Laporte. like a cue to turn around. And in doing that, she makes it clear. The meeting will not include Laporte. I've got some concerns to articulate. Fine. She can keep the petty irritation from her voice. They should be together, effortlessly and unanimously lethal. Two fists on the same fighter. Are you flying with me tomorrow? When I go put out the signal. I need to check myself over in the simulator, Sim says. Make sure the radiation shakes are gone. Laporte's flown with her long enough to hear the no. I'm gonna leave it there! We're picking up. We're really picking up. If we're lucky, I can squeeze the last bits into one more part. But, that's it for today, stars. If you liked the video, please go to like and subscribe if you haven't already to join our wonderful galaxy. Comment down below and I'll get back to you in some way or another. And I'll see you for our next adventure. Remember, we're all made of the same cosmic dust, so be nice. Okay, love you. Bye!